YouTube is absolutely flooded with videos titled, "I moved to Africa," where everyone is smiling, the sun is shining, homes are beautiful, huge. It's a dream. It's the ultimate dream, the perfect escape. And you can't really blame anyone for seeking peace on the continent of Africa, for seeking a sense of dignity. But there's a video category you almost never see. That category is why I moved back to the States. And just because you don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. There is a quiet exodus going on, especially in West Africa, and the stories behind them are far more complex. People who packed their bags, who sold all their property in the West and moved to motherland Africa. In under 3 years, are packing up again and selling their household items, getting rid of their property, and heading back to the States or to Britain, to the West. That dream that they had, responding to the calling, is a dream obviously worth celebrating. But today, I want us to look at the rising challenges that these people are facing on the continent of Africa. Why is it that some returnees are failing and returning back home to the West? And even more important, for you especially who is watching, how do you avoid becoming a statistic? How do you avoid the same trap? Hopefully at the end of this video, we can be able to come up with some answers that could be of great value to you. This is definitely Afrocentric with an X, and let's dive in. For a vast majority, arriving in Africa for the very first time, interacting with motherland.
Welcome back home. Thank you.
It is obviously a very, very spiritual journey. It is emotional, what I would want to call the honeymoon stage, where you are reconnecting or connecting for the first time with the motherland. And the spiritual journey has got its own pace and its own effect on different people. It's novel, it's exciting. Life is absolutely different. You feel more at peace. But you also notice that the cost of living on the continent is far much cheaper than the West, by and large. And that is what you're likely to experience within the first year. But soon after, when you hit year 2, then reality checks in. The things that would not bother you too much, the power cuts or the sudden blackouts, poor internet in certain areas, poor infrastructure, and an array of things, they start to really work you up. And even in terms of living, inflation hits Africa or African countries in different ways. Your dollar currency gives you a lot of power, and at the exchange rate, you get more value. So you believe it can go a longer mile. Same thing as the British pound. But at certain times, there is a huge change, which obviously has a direct bearing on your funds. What you get is a dwindling bank balance because you are probably a retiree who is living off your pension or your savings. And within a 2-year period, you can deplete it really fast. And part of the reason that you also end up depleting these resources is that the Western living is not how we live on the continent of Africa. So the Western person generally tends to shop at the supermarket or the mall. Pricing in those areas is quite different. The ordinary African person on the continent goes to open-air markets, even for second-hand clothing, but mostly for food and your regular use items. Those you get in markets where the price is far much lower than what you'd get in the supermarkets. And therefore, though many people are able to move when it really gets harder, when it really gets to the grind, there are those who are unable to actually sustain themselves. And therefore, the only alternative is to return back to an environment that they knew well, that they could navigate. So I want us to examine 3 core areas. The very first one is healthcare panic. that perhaps in certain areas, certain pockets within different countries, there are not enough facilities to begin with, or somebody arrived on the continent and failed to do their proper planning to ensure that they have health cover from the very onset. And at the point where there's an emergency, you end up in a very difficult circumstance, perhaps with bills that you cannot meet, or you are unable to afford quality healthcare that perhaps may necessitate being evacuated to a neighboring country. The quality of medical care, for example, in a place like Gambia, in comparison to Senegal, I want to believe, is kind of different. And if you're Senegalese or Gambian, please share in the comments. This is not an attack on the countries, but this is just to take a candid look at what really obtains once you are on the ground. Because the reality is, when you are 35 or 25, your health rarely features in the radar. You don't think about it. You're young, you're energetic, you are healthy, you are up and about, you've got targets, you've got goals, and you're able to do the kind of jobs that most retirees wouldn't do. But health will be a priority for those who are older, because advanced in age, you are slowing down. That health panic, the fear of living alone, dying alone, is real. And so if there is any kind of scare, the obvious option is to ensure that you've got a modicum of safety, that your health is secured. So these black folk will obviously return back home to the West. Not that they don't love Africa, not that they hate Africa, but they're confronted with a reality of self-preservation, safety. So they will definitely travel back home to the West. Reason number 2 is a fixed income trap. And this could be a myth, but it could also be a reality in certain instances, that you hope to live like a king or queen on the continent of Africa. The British pound, the American dollar, all these other currencies tend to be fairly strong against a majority of African currencies. And therefore, the thinking generally is that your money will go a long way. A retiree, for example, you could be hoping that your pension, something in the tune of $1,200, $1,500, $2,000, can actually sustain you. Yes, it can. With the thinking that prices will not change. Food prices will not change. Bills, rent will not change. But you soon realize that because of the fluctuating nature of a lot of these currencies, the inflation within West Africa, for example, even in East Africa, that the power of your dollar or your pound is not strong enough, because those changes do not come with extra money for you. In West Africa, for example, a vast majority of places, rent is paid in advance. If you're lucky, maybe 6 months in advance. A majority of the time, you will be paying upwards of 2 years in advance, 3 years in advance. That's a lump sum. And that locks you into a certain rigidity that you cannot make change when you feel you need to relocate to another country. So that is a challenge. And your king or queen lifestyle will soon be a nightmare for you. We've talked about health. We've talked about your income. And now we look at the third aspect, which is loneliness. This is a challenge for anyone, even for Africans who go to the West. That sense of loneliness often grips them because you do not have the same community, the same network, the same safety net that you left back home. And one of the things that is totally underestimated is that cultural difference, the cultural loneliness, the inability to connect with the locals, banter, understanding jokes, the nuance around language, use. Simple things like even your own gardener talking to you about, say, a lost era of music in the West. So though you probably have enough resources, and therefore you are able to afford a certain quality of life, That aspect of culture may lock you from a lot of events, may lock you from engaging. And so if you don't keep an open mind, you might find it very, very difficult that you live in a beautiful home, a beautiful house, but the walls are cold. You're unable to relate. That's a challenge. That can send you back home very easily. And remember that from the patterns we've seen, majority of those who are returning to the continent are probably people who have now hit their retirement age. They're 60, they're 70, and if you're lucky enough and you still have your partner, then that becomes a sense of refuge for you. But if that is missing, then unless you really cultivate those connections, then you're going to be in trouble. But I'm not sharing this story so that I can scare blacks away. I can scare you away from connecting with Africa. But it's to help you better prepare. Because really, if you don't prepare, then you're setting up yourself for failure, frustration, and Africa that may have been a reconnection and a place of peace may end up tasting very badly in your mouth. Then you head back home. And we've seen some of the comments that have come out of some of the realities that, brothers and sisters faced here. Preparedness would help you navigate this better. So talking about that, I want to look at those pain points. How do you deal with them? So one of the first things that I want to talk about is the challenge of housing, home. How do you deal with that? The one thing you want to do is to ensure that when you arrive on the continent, don't buy, don't rush, don't feel the urge to immediately purchase. Rent for up to a year or even more. Understand your environment, understand your neighborhood, then make that move. By that time, you already have a sense of the place you would want to stay at because you have traveled the breadth of the country, or at least on key locations that may just offer you the quality of life that you're looking for. That's crucial. Then number 2, your health is important. What is your medical evacuation plan? Ensure that you have got medical cover, quality medical cover. And now relocation services from companies that I'm seeing here. There's a dealer services, and then you also have Travelers Culture. They are including that as part of the package that can help you sustain yourself, but have a peace of mind that your healthcare will be well taken care of. These are good facilities. The challenge is still there, but you will be properly advised. The key thing is to always ensure that you have got advanced boots on the ground.
You don't know the culture, you don't know the ins and outs.
Do your due diligence to ensure that you are able to have what you absolutely cannot do without. And as a bonus, those who would want to purchase property, again, do not rush, especially buying land here. We look alike, color, but the minute you open your mouth, you sound different. And because of the nature of economics and people just trying to get ahead, there sadly are instances where individuals may exploit you. And scammers are everywhere. I hear people talking about Africa, that Africans are scammers, but scammers exist everywhere. It is not an African thing. It is not a preserve of Africa. I remember the famous video that we saw, the Tinder swindler, featured big time on Netflix. Crime is everywhere. So be informed. Information is power. But obviously you will be feeling the pain because you're thinking, I'm returning home to Africa. But my brothers and sisters are trying to scam me. They think I'm different because I sound different. So if you're here for the first time or you're returning, many thanks. If this resonates with you and it can be of value to a friend, family, they're looking to relocate to the continent, kindly share with them. Let's spread the message. We are seeking greater understanding between Africa and Black diaspora. That is what Afrocentric is all about. Celebrating us, dignifying us. Too many times we have been denied that, even here at home. But I think by far in the West. So spread the word, spread the message, man. And many are not subscribers. We have been away for some time, but now we are really feeling that the calling to help make you understand Africa better really is our niche. So I'm excited going to the new year to work towards that, creating more stories, creating more commentaries and analysis on the continent so that you are better prepared to navigate this beautiful motherland. So for that reason, please remember to subscribe, like the content. It helps the algorithm. That's the magic of YouTube, or sometimes not. We have to keep working at it. And I'm excited to continue doing that. And if you have any questions to ask, please post them in the comments below. If you have anything to share, tell us about some of your greatest fears about returning, relocating to Africa, about doing business. And we'll be more than happy to do a bit more digging and bring you content addressing some of those challenges. So many thanks for watching. Many thanks for always supporting the channel. Please share the content, check out the next story, and we'll see you in the next one. It's happy holidays from us here in Nairobi, and all the very best for the year 2026. Peace and love. I'm out.